So recently on this channel, I did a video on my top 5 best and worst platinums I got in 2024, which if you haven't seen already, make sure you do so as that would mean a lot. And obviously if you're not new to this channel, then you'll already know this fact, but for those that are new to the channel may not know that I also do no-hit challenge videos on certain games and make them extremely difficult and basically impossible to successfully complete. So that's being to beat the challenge without getting any upgrades throughout the whole game that I'm attempting the challenge on, and also restarting checkpoint every time I get hit. And in 2024, I did a total of 12 challenge videos, which you guys can see on the screen now. And just like the top 5 best and worst platinums video I did, I will be doing the same thing here where I rank my top 5 best and worst challenge videos that I attempted this year. Now, I will be ranking these videos by 3 categories. The first one being enjoyment, so how much fun I had overall when attempting this challenge. The second one being the total hits I ended the challenge on, so whether or not I was happy or disappointed with the end score I got after beating the challenge. Which for those who don't know, all these videos that will be in this video, I didn't get through any of them without getting hit. So I'll just be going off whether I was happy and proud of my overall score or not. And the third and final one being difficulty. So just simply how difficult the challenge was as a whole to get through. And also the way this list will work is that number 5 will be the least worst or best video on the list. And obviously number 1 will be the worst/best video on the list. But without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So just like I did on my top 5 best and worst platinum video, I feel like it's only best to start with the top 5 worst challenge videos I did in 2024. And coming in at the number 5 spot is Marvel's Spider-Man No-Hit Challenge. Now, if I'm being completely honest, the reason I've put this video at the number 5 spot is because I don't really remember much about everything when going through this challenge, except for me really badly struggling on certain encounters with the demons and a couple boss fights as well. However, I do remember that I had fun with this challenge a lot of the time, hence why it's the lowest on the worst category. But I remember how hard certain encounters were on this game to not get hit on. Like, I remember this specific encounter I had to do where I had to face a bunch of these demons on the mission where Electro was causing chaos. And I kid you not, this encounter where I had to fight these demons without getting hit was horrible. And I remember getting so annoyed at this section. Oh no, I don't even know what to say because it's actually going to be the worst score! They're everywhere! Web bomb. What? I dodged it! I dodged it! Oh no. And even though I had a few encounters and moments that I got through with ease and had fun doing it, these specific encounters with the demons and the final boss fight against Dr. Octavius was just so bad, and it just has to be at the bottom of the worst challenge videos I've done in 2024. And it's funny because as a game, this game isn't hard to beat at all, even on the hardest difficulty, but trying to beat the game without getting hit and also having to restart checkpoint if I get hit is a whole different story. I think I ended this challenge on, I want to say 85 hits, and because this was like the 3rd challenge video I ever did, I wasn't happy with this score in the moment because at that point, it was the worst score I got on a challenge video. So yeah, even though I had moments where I enjoyed this challenge video, the bad moments really do outweigh the good, which is why it takes the number 5 spot on the worst category. But now coming in at the number 4 spot is the Batman Arkham Knight No-Hit Challenge. Now, before doing this challenge video, I had previously done a no-hit challenge video on Batman Arkham Asylum and Arkham City as well, and had enjoyed both of those challenges overall. And because I love all the Batman games and have played them all so many times I've lost count at this point, I thought when going into this that I was going to enjoy attempting this challenge on Batman Arkham Knight's main story. But what I completely forgot about when going into this is how many damn tank fights I would have to do throughout this main story, and just using the Batmobile in general. And don't get me wrong, I actually quite like the Batmobile in this game, even though I know that overall a lot of people don't. But like I said, I was completely blindsided by the fact that I just forgot how much you would have to use the Batmobile in the main story. And although a lot of these encounters weren't too bad overall, the tank fight encounters that were bad were bloody terrible. Like, I remember this specific encounter at the end of the story where you had to have like the 873rd tank encounter on this story, where you were defending the GCPD from these hordes of tanks, which was actually the last tank encounter on the game. And this was one of the many times where I just kept getting hit over and over again. Okay, next hack. See, come on! I moved slightly to the right. Slightly! What the hell? And this wasn't the only horrible time on this challenge where I kept getting hit, as I also struggled for close to an hour on other tank encounters on this game. I'm done. I was so close. And the fact how I had no upgrades throughout this whole playthrough definitely made this much worse, because I actually did a separate video on me doing a no-hit challenge on all of the game's Batmobile only side missions, but having all the upgrades already equipped. And I kid you not, it made a massive difference in difficulty and it wasn't hard at all. And don't get me wrong, I still got hit on normal combat encounters on this challenge, but the combat encounters were nowhere near as bad as the tank/Batmobile encounters, where that took up like 80% of the main story. I ended this challenge on 98 hits, which I wasn't happy about, because I was so close to that 100 hit mark, which at the time I found so embarrassing, considering I've always considered myself a very good Batman player. So even though it pains me to do it, but that is why this video is going at the number 4 spot. But coming in at the number 3 spot is Gotham Knights. Now when going into this video, I wasn't expecting to get the best score, because even though I actually didn't mind this game when I first played it, I also knew that the combat wasn't the best, as it felt quite slow and heavy at times, and also not to mention that this game also runs at 30 FPS. So this was a challenge I was curious about, because I wanted to see how I would do despite the combat not really being suitable for a no-hit challenge in my opinion. And yes, even though I had moments where I would get hit and felt like I couldn't avoid attacks no matter how hard I tried, what puts this at the number 3 spot is the final boss fight. So for those who don't know, you have to fight 2 different bosses back to back, with the first boss being a corrupt Bruce Wayne and the second boss being Talia al Ghul. And these 2 bosses were hard to beat without getting hit alone, as for a good 20 minutes, I kept getting hit on the first boss before I could even get to the second boss. But what made this so bad was after finally beating Bruce, I would have to face Talia right after and would obviously get hit, because not only would I have to learn her moves and patterns, but she was also just a much harder fight than Bruce was. But after getting hit by Talia and restarting checkpoint, I thought that I would have a checkpoint after beating Bruce Wayne, but oh boy was I mistaken. Because once restarted checkpoint, it would take me all the way back to the Bruce Wayne boss fight again. And even though I kept trying for a few hours, it got to the point where I was so sick of beating Bruce just to get hit by Talia, because she was too quick, and I am positive you physically can't avoid some of her attacks, to just restart checkpoint and have to beat Bruce again. And it got so bad that I actually technically abandoned the challenge and just didn't restart checkpoint after getting hit. Instead, if I got hit, I would still count it, but just carry on as normal, because I just knew it wasn't possible, and to be honest, I had enough at that point. And even though that this was the worst part of this challenge video, the challenge as a whole just wasn't the best, as enemy types like the Talons and the Assassins were just a nightmare to beat without getting hit, that this challenge as a whole was quite painful. Even though there were a few moments where this challenge was a bit enjoyable, overall it just wasn't great, as I just don't think the combat style of this game is suitable for a no-hit run. I ended this no-hit challenge on, I believe, 98 hits, or I want to say like 91, 92, something like that. And I knew I'd get a bad score on this challenge, but not this bad, which is why in the moment I was not happy with it at all. And on the video, I even said that I technically failed the challenge because I abandoned the rule of restarting checkpoint when I got hit. So that is why it is going in the number 3 spot. But coming in at the number 2 spot, which just beat Gotham Knights when I was putting this list together, is the Batman Arkham City and Arkham Knight DLCs. Now this actually sucks to put at the number 2 spot, because when I look back at this whole video and experience when doing this challenge, it was overall more fun in ways than Gotham Knights. And when making this video, I was actually very close to putting Gotham Knights at number 2 and this video at number 3. But when I really think about this video, there was one specific encounter that was just so bad that it has to be at the number 2 spot. Because with Gotham Knights, I knew that it wasn't going to be the best game to attempt this challenge on, and when I got to the final boss fight and the checkpoint was horrific, I was annoyed, but because so much stuff had happened prior to that moment, I just wasn't surprised overall. Whereas with this encounter on this specific DLC on Batman Arkham Knight, I can't say the same. I actually titled this video saying it was the hardest challenge video I've attempted so far, which by the way isn't true, because the hardest challenge video I've done is at the number 1 spot on the list, which I'll talk about in a minute. I'd say this was more the hardest encounter I have ever done on a no-hit challenge video before. And that encounter was the Catwoman DLC on Batman Arkham Knight at the very end, where you have to fight a bunch of these Riddler robots. Sounds easy, right? Well, it should have been, except at a rapid speed, these floorboards you are on start to electrify, and you have to take out every single robot before all the square floorboards are electrified. And trying to do this section normally is hard enough, but having to do it with no upgrades and without getting hit is genuinely impossible. And I was just so shocked because prior to this, I had done the Matter of Family DLC, Harley Quinn's Revenge, and Harley Quinn's DLC pack on Arkham Knight. And even though I got hit a few times overall across those 3 DLCs, it wasn't hard at all and they were all really fun. So when I struggled so badly on this Catwoman section, I was just so angry and shocked that it was this hard and pretty much impossible to not get hit on. So, much like I did on Gotham Knights, I cheated. I literally cheated. Yep, I did the same thing I did on Gotham Knights and just counted every time I got hit, but just didn't restart checkpoint. Because I was here for hours, and I want to say I was on like maybe 14, 17 hits or something like that before starting this combat encounter, and by the time I was done with it, I was on 129 hits. So I got hit like 115 times on this one section. But once getting through that monstrosity of an encounter, I did the rest of the DLCs and only got hit another 8 times across the last 3, which was fine, and I enjoyed those last 3 DLCs. But the fact how that Catwoman encounter was so bad just makes this video as a whole so painful to think about, and that's why it goes at the number 2 spot. But now, coming in at the number 1 spot of the worst challenge video I did in 2024, which is actually the hardest challenge video I did, was Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Without question, this was the hardest and most painful no-hit challenge video that I did this year. Now this hurts to put this at the number 1 spot because just like Spider-Man 1, I absolutely love this game, and I always dabble between which game I like the most out of the 2 because I think the story on Marvel's Spider-Man is much better than Marvel's Spider-Man 2, whereas I think the gameplay, the boss fights, and the missions are overall better on Spider-Man 2. But as a no-hit challenge, it pains me to say that this game was terrible. Like, I'm not even exaggerating when I say that this was the most angriest I have ever been when doing one of these no-hit challenges. As when going into this, I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't think it would be much harder than Marvel's Spider-Man. But with that challenge video, there was only specific encounters that were ridiculously hard, whereas like 85% of this story was filled with really tough encounters, where a lot of them just felt impossible to beat without getting hit, and having no upgrades as well. Like fighting the normal enemies like the hunters at times were challenging enough, but near the end of the game you have to fight these symbiotes that were actually disgusting to beat with no upgrades. Like every single encounter from the first set of symbiotes you face in the story till the end of the game, every single combat encounter with these enemy types were disgusting, and I struggled badly on every single one of them. But the main reason this challenge was so hard was the damn boss fights. Oh my god, I'm getting PTSD just thinking about them. From having to fight the Lizard, to Mr. Negative, to flipping Peter Parker was just grueling. Honestly, I can't stress enough by saying how every single boss fight I had to do as a part of this challenge was genuinely one of the hardest things I've had to do in my life. But specifically with the Peter Parker boss fight, I was shocked by how hard it actually was. I remember I was there for a solid hour or maybe just under and just constantly getting hit on the first stage. And did I forget to mention there were 3 bloody stages to this fight? But once beating the first stage, I was able to beat the second one with ease, which really surprised me. But once getting to that 3rd stage, I went back to getting hit over and over and over again.
What are you doing?
I can't do this, man! I can't do it! I'm actually on 85 hits! Please, first stage, I need a checkpoint. I need a check. No! Why did I press circle? And I remember getting so angry at this that I had a sore throat after and a splitting headache because I was raging so damn much. And like I said, every single boss fight was so hard to not get hit on, and even most encounters as well. But when I think about the worst moment on this specific challenge video, it's this Peter Parker boss fight right here. I remember I ended this challenge on 188 hits or something like that, and about 50 hits or so of that came from this damn boss fight. And I remember that I was so annoyed in the moment that I got a score that was close to 200, because even though I expected to struggle because I struggled on Marvel Spider-Man 1, I didn't think my end score would be that bad. But at least I got through it, I suppose. But yeah, it was so hard, and I remember almost giving up at the time because I just didn't think it was possible. But with perseverance, I was able to finally do it. But yeah, even though the hardest encounter I did on a challenge video was the Catwoman DLC on Arkham Knight, this as a whole was the hardest challenge video I've done in 2024 without a doubt. So now that we have got the top 5 worst challenge videos out of the way, it is now time to rank the top 5 best challenge videos I've done in 2024. And starting at the number 5 spot is the Sifu No Death Challenge. Now, out of all the challenge videos I've done on my channel, this was the only game that I decided to do a no death run on, instead of trying to beat the game without getting hit. And I am man enough to admit that the reason I chose to do this was because I was too much of a wimp to attempt this as a no hit challenge, because I knew that would have made me so mad and I highly doubt I wouldn't have completed it. And had I have actually decided to do this as a no hit challenge, I doubt it would have been on the best category for this video and instead would have probably been on the worst. So because of this, I decided to do my first ever no death challenge video on this game, and honestly doing this made my experience with this game 10 times better. I mean, sure, I still died like 18 times, but it doesn't change the fact that for the first 4 missions especially, I had so much fun and rarely died on those 4 missions. Whereas the final level I died the most, but even dying a lot on this final level, it was still fun regardless. I also just love the gameplay and the combat on this game. Like, I think the combat is so satisfying and smooth, and it was just so satisfying and so much fun to get through most encounters, like a true kung fu master. So yeah, overall this challenge video was a lot of fun, and doing it as a no death run instead of a no hit run was so much more fun and less stressful. Although I might attempt this game again, but as a no hit challenge this year in 2025 at some point. Maybe. But now, coming in at the number 4 spot is the Batman Arkham Knight all combat only side missions. Now this is where we get back to all the no-hit challenges, as these next 4 videos that are on the list are no-hit challenge videos, and we started off with this video. Now because I didn't do any of the side missions on my Batman Arkham Knight challenge video, I did a separate video on all the combat only side missions as a separate no-hit challenge video. And the reason I say all combat only side missions is because I hated how most of the main story was tank fights that drove me insane. So I honestly just wanted to focus on doing combat only encounters with all the side missions that didn't involve the damn Batmobile. And even though I was happy to not do any encounters involving the Batmobile, I was still a bit nervous because I remembered some side missions were quite challenging to not get hit on, and some combat encounters on the main story were pretty difficult as well, and I got hit a few times on those encounters on the main story video as well. So I'd be lying if I said I wasn't slightly nervous that I was going to end up raging throughout this video. But I was pleasantly surprised, as overall all these side missions were a lot of fun and pretty easy to not get hit on despite having no upgrades. And to be honest, even though some of these side missions are quite repetitive, I overall really like the side missions on this game as a whole. Another reason why I thought I wouldn't do good at this challenge is because there's a lot of side missions to do. From the Penguin side missions to all the Watchtowers and to the Azrael side missions as well, just to name a few. I genuinely thought that I was going to struggle a lot, but surprisingly I didn't, and I had a lot of fun. Now I did get hit a lot of times being 53, but one, it wasn't nearly as bad as the Arkham Knight main story video, and secondly, it was just a breath of fresh air to just solely focus on the combat side of this game that I still had so much fun regardless. And I think it also helps that the combat on this game is so good. I mean, with all the Batman games, the combat is amazing, and to me is still the best combat in a superhero slash fighting game, I guess you could say. So yeah, the fact how the combat is so good and so much fun on this game, and the fact how I was so drained from tank fights just made this video 10 times better for me. But now, coming in at the number 3 spot is Ratchet & Clank. Now Ratchet & Clank was a game I always wanted to do a challenge video on since maybe May or June of 2024. However, I was also skeptical because even though it has combat in the game, it's mainly focused around different types of weapons like guns and bombs, etc. So as I was only doing challenge videos on games like Batman and Spider-Man, etc., which were all melee combat heavy, I was skeptical but also curious to see how I would do on a different type of game as a no-hit challenge. And even though there was a couple encounters that were quite difficult, primarily boss fights, this was once again a lot easier than I thought. But I was also very surprised that I enjoyed this as much as I did, as usually with the other games I do these challenge videos on, I would have to strategize at times with stealth and sometimes open combat as well. But with Ratchet & Clank, it felt like I had to strategize in a completely different way, and most of the time as well, as I would have to figure out what guns I wanted to use and how much ammo I had, etc. And it just made this experience so much fun, because with patience and strategy, I was able to beat most encounters relatively well. I did get hit a total of 65 times, which is actually a lot of times, I would admit, but I was still very happy with this score because 1, I thought it was going to be much worse, and 2, I had so much fun with this challenge that I was quite happy with the score overall. But yeah, even though I love and enjoy this game as normal, doing this challenge video on it was also a lot of fun, which surprised me. And I just really didn't expect to enjoy this challenge as much as I did, which is why it's going at number 3. Now this one might be a little bit biased, which I'll explain in a moment. However, I also believe this deserves the number 2 spot anyway, and that video is Batman Arkham City. Now the reason this might be a little bit biased is for 2 reasons. The first one being that Batman Arkham City is my favourite game of all time, and the second reason is because it was my best performed challenge video in 2024, which blew my mind then, and even now still to this day. And I just love and appreciate you guys so much for showing so much support on that video, so thank you guys so much for that. Aww. But this challenge video was also just simply a lot of fun. And it was also one of the fewer times I got hit in total, as I ended this no-hit challenge on, I want to say, like 46 hits or something like that. So in terms of a total hit score, it was actually one of the best scores I got across all my challenge videos. But when I look back at this whole video, there wasn't really anything that was extremely difficult except for maybe a couple boss fights. But there was one main combat encounter that I remember that was by far the hardest combat encounter in this game. And that was where I had to fight Clayface, who was disguised as the Joker, and a couple Titan thugs and normal thugs as well that kept spawning in. And like I said, I got mad at a couple encounters on this game, but this was the only encounter that was truly really difficult, and I kept getting hit because of it. But my point is that the fact how there was only one encounter throughout this whole game that made me rage and was really hard just proves that as a whole challenge video, this was a lot of fun to do and was pretty easy all round. Oh, and I also raged on the final boss fight with Clayface. I can't forget about that one. Like, come on! But like I said, despite all the rage moments I had on this video, the fact how I had so much fun just replaying my favourite game of all time and also getting a very good score, and the fact how the video performed very well and you guys loved it, just proves why this challenge video has to be at the number 2 spot. But now, my number 1 and my best challenge video I did in 2024 is Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now I don't know if there's a small part of recency bias when it comes to putting this game at the number 1 spot, as this was the last challenge video I did in 2024 and the last video I did as a whole in 2024 as well. But because of that, I remember pretty much everything from when I did this challenge video. And I remember that there wasn't one moment throughout the whole time I did this challenge that I got angry or raged or at any point wanted to take a break to relax. Like, I had so much fun when doing this challenge video, and as an overall experience, it wasn't hard at all. I'd say the hardest section was fighting the Tinker at the end of the game, but even that wasn't too bad overall. Like, I ended up getting hit 17 times by the end of the challenge, which I was so happy with that score because it was the best score I got on a challenge video. And it's no surprise because this was also one of, if not the easiest challenge video I've ever done. But I also just love how this game is set in Christmas. As for those who know me personally or have been watching my videos quite regularly, you will know that I absolutely love Christmas. It's my favourite time of year, and I always love playing Miles Morales and Batman Arkham Origins every year at the Christmas time. And I just love the scenery on Spider-Man Miles Morales with the lights and the Christmas trees, the decorations and the snow just all around the city as you swing through it, and also fight crime in it as well. It truly gets me in the Christmas spirit even more than I already am, and that's one of the main reasons why I love this game so much. But I also just think that Spider-Man Miles Morales is a fantastic game regardless. The only negative about it is that the game is obviously way too short, but the story, the gameplay and the Christmas scenery all around the city is just a few examples of why this game is so good in my eyes and why this challenge video was so much fun to do. It was the easiest and most enjoyable challenge video I've done, not just in 2024, but out of all the challenge videos I've done on this channel. And it was also my last video I did at the end of the year, before having my Christmas break. And in my opinion, it was the perfect last video to do in 2024. So with all that being said, that is why my Spider-Man Miles Morales no-hit challenge video takes the spot for the best challenge video I did in 2024. So that is my list for my top 5 best and worst challenge videos I did in 2024. Let me know in the comments whether or not you guys agree or disagree with my thoughts and opinions throughout this video, as I am genuinely interested to hear what you guys think. By the time you guys are watching this video, we'll be in 2025, so I hope you guys have had a good start to the year so far. As most of you know, I also do platinum videos on this channel, and throughout 2025, I definitely want to focus more on doing platinum videos than challenge videos. However, that doesn't mean I won't be doing any challenge videos this year, because I will be. I just won't be doing them as much as I'll be doing platinum videos. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to give the video a like, as that would mean a lot, and make sure to also subscribe to my channel, as I am over halfway to reaching one of my milestones, being 1,000 subscribers. So it'd mean a lot if you guys help me out to get to that point by subscribing to the channel and joining me on this awesome journey that we are on. But yeah, that'll do it for this video. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and make sure to also turn those notifications on so you don't miss future videos. And take care, see you guys later.